Hello everyone, welcome back to Hills and Hollers Homestead. I'm Mike, and today it's a firewood splitting day, and I'm out here knocking it out. Really glad to have the log splitter to me, because I'm telling you, I'm knocking out some wood today, buddy. And the wife, she went up, picked my boy up at his grandparents', so I figured I'd just get jumping on this. I went over and grabbed some pallets and some fuel and jumped over here and start hitting this pile, and I'm almost done. I've got maybe an hour left, if that. So not hard work. Worst part of it's bending over, picking up the big old heavy pieces, get them started splitting. Once you split them in half, though, it makes things much easier. So I'm one of these people, when I work, I think work doesn't clear my mind. Work makes me contemplate. I think of a lot of different stuff when I work. It's like when I'm out on a tractor and I'm brush hogging, or I'm doing dozer work, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. That's what I tell everybody. That's my time with God. That's when I'm clearing things in my head and sorting things out and working things out. And you can tell I'm out here in the cold today because my sinuses are all stuffy. So if I sound a little nasally, that's just me. Good weather. It's about 46, 48 degrees today. Night. It's surprisingly a cold breeze coming up out of the south. Or that's usually the opposite, but we got a cold breeze coming up out of the south. I'm sure my friends in Florida aren't shivering or have the goosebumps right now, but there's a cold wind coming up out of the south here. But I just, I just working and thinking as I'm going along and stuff like that. And some of the stuff, and I try to think of things to come up and talk about on these videos and stuff. There's so many things to cover, so many things to talk about, and just so many different ways of doing those things that sometimes it's hard to come up with topics and stuff to talk about. But today I was, as I was working along, I'm thinking back on some of the videos that and some of the stuff that we've already talked about. And I'd said there on a couple videos ago that I was reading a thing that said like 70% of Americans, 70 years ago, 70% of Americans produced their own food. They grew their own gardens, grew their own food, had chickens in the backyard, raised their own eggs, did this, did that. And the only time they went to the store was just for the commercial commodity stuff, like flour and stuff that they couldn't grow or grind at home, and sugar and things like that. And now look at it, 70 years later, we're probably 98% of a professional consumer society. And look at look at everyone fleeing. Well, not everyone, but look at the amount of people fleeing that now to get to this kind of lifestyle. And I've always had, ever since I bought this property back in 2004, I always knew I wanted to do something with it, having the land that we do and the amount of acreage. But I just, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do all these different things, but I could just never settle on one thing. And, and you shouldn't settle on one thing, but like I said, the homestead lifestyle is what it boils down to. And that's what I was thinking about today. I'm sitting there, well, now wait a minute, 70 years ago, would I have been considered a homesteader? 70 years ago, would I have been considered a prepper? Is what we're doing today any more relevant than what they did 70 years ago? And it's probably, I won't call it equal, because people had to do that back then. They didn't have the support, the community support, or we'll say the social support. I mean, neighbors helped neighbors, people were kind, and people did this and people did that. But the society that we're in today, you're not going to get that kind of support here. I mean, you're going to have to qualify for social services and all the DHHR stuff, Department of Health and Human Services, and everything like that. And I mean, if you've got income on the books, you're just pretty much screwed in that aspect of that. And then what was it? I think I just read in September, another 4 million people just walked off the freaking job. How are these people doing this? How are they walking off the job? Not that I want to. I'd love to. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to. I'd love to hit the lottery, and there'd be a lot of happy people. Not, with me leaving work, there'd be a lot of happy people, but there'd be a lot of people in our lives who are very close to us, and there are people that we know who need help, and we do try to help. But they'd be very happy if we did win a lottery like that. But but you go back to the 60s and 70s, when people did what they called the back to land movement. Everybody just pretty much had their fill with society and war and everything else, with the Vietnam War going on and just all the ruckus and everything. And it was like people just went back to the land. The hippies is what they referred to them as. These people were doing these communes and doing these little hippie communities and stuff like that, where they were growing their own food, or becoming vegans and all that other good stuff. But you know, that's are, are we doing differently? And I don't think we're doing differently. I think we've, for some reason, had to come up with a name for what we're doing when it was everyday life for people 70 years ago. And it still is for a lot of people in the world. I mean, not maybe just not the United States so much, but the world over. You know, there's a lot of people, this is their lifestyle. So I'm sitting here today and I'm out here working, splitting wood and stuff, and I'm thinking, you know, this was something that everybody did. You had to do this 70 years ago. You know, you had to shovel coal, or you know, you had to cut wood or split wood, or if not, you paid somebody to do it. And I mean, a lot of people, probably folks did, but you know, when I turn this camera around here and I show you my little community, well, what you can see of it, the holla here, any of the people that were here during that time, they did all that. They had to do that because that kind of stuff wasn't commercially available back then. I mean, you know, there was probably people around here who were cutting firewood. There's pictures of this area because all this is all coal mine down through here, all old coal mining community. And that's actually the name of the area that I live in. It's named after that mine. But you know, there's pictures I have from the 40s, 30s and 40s where there's barely, and when I tell you barely, there's barely a standing tree on any mountain, any hill around here. Every so often you'd see a little clump of trees or a tree here and there, but there was barely a standing tree anywhere in this area. And to see that, it was like, man, I mean, that's, you know, people were cutting woods. Of course, they were cutting it to build the homes, to mill the lumber, to build the mine homes and the mine buildings, and for cribbing and everything inside the mines. And you know, it all became just pretty much for the mines, and everything revolved around the mines. And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the history, especially of West Virginia in the coal era, is they had a company store that the mine would build and they would stock, but they only paid their miners in what was called script, mine script. And they would pay you in script. You pretty much became servants because you weren't getting paid US dollars. You were getting paid mine script, and you could only spend that money or that script at the company store. So you couldn't go to town and you couldn't go to GC Murphy's or anywhere like that and buy anything with that coal script because it wasn't legal tender. And that's where a lot of the coal wars came from, and a lot of the issues with you know, the unionization and everything. That's one of the reasons. There's a lot of reasons behind it. But you know, I look at this and I'm like, you know, I'm no different than anybody else has done this. You know, my motivations may be different, they may be similar, but you know, we're not different than anybody else who lives this lifestyle. We're not different than anybody else who lives more rurally, and cuts their own wood, raises their own chickens, and you know, gathers their own eggs, grows their own gardens and stuff. And I think about that, and this is the lifestyle. This is what I've pursued. This is what I want to do. You know, and you know, I think sometimes, am I living my best life? And I honestly and truly, I may not be living my best life, but I can tell you that I'm living the life that I want to live, and I'm loving the life that I'm living right now. I want to do so much more of this. And I know that sounds crazy. I mean, here I am 50 years old, and age really doesn't have a lot to do with it, but there's a lot of miles here. I'm hanging on, buddy, but there's a lot of miles. And you know, I want so much more, and not material things. I just want to be able to do so much more. I want to be so much more independent and self-sufficient and self-reliant, you know, like we always talk about. And you know, there's other structures I need to build. I need to build a woodshed now where I can, a woodshed. I can take my kids out behind the woodshed. But I need to build a woodshed, you know, next year, and have that here for when we stack firewood again, because for now I'm going to be putting in a 10 by 10 utility tent over this once I get it stacked up. I got a grape arbor I need to build. I need to get my orchard together and get all the wood chips and the mulch and stuff that we've had sitting here and get it in my orchard. And I need to build a building. There's another building I need to build so I can, I want to raise rabbits. I want to raise and you know, have rabbits for meat, and I want to do this and I want to do that. And that's what I mean. I want to do so much more. And so, you know, am I living my best life? The best life that I can? I honestly and truly, I think I am. And I think there's enough to keep me busy, and you know, everything that we do is done for us, and having the security of having food put away, and having the security of knowing that, you know, if something would happen, that we don't have to go to the store. And we were just talking about that this morning, and it was funny because, you know, my wife, she's been now dehydrating apples, and we've been vacuum sealing them into jars. And the kids love them. They're fantastic. I mean, she's been buying John Gold apples and got that little apple slicer thing you put on it and turn it. And she's been dehydrating apples, and fruit's not one of the things that I eat on the diet that how I eat. But boy, I've been jumping into those a lot because they're really good. And it doesn't concentrate the sugar. It doesn't make them any more sugar containing, but they're just really good. And I told her, I said, next year, I said, you know, with the orchard that we have now, there's 4 apple trees in it. And there's an old orchard way back up on the hill up here that I was in this, finishing up my brush hogging on when my brush hog took a crap this year. And I was eating some of the apples up there, and oh God, they're fantastic. So I told her, I said, next year, I said, we're really going to get up there and get these apples down. And there's a couple springs on the property that I want to develop. There's just so many things I want to do. And it's like, I'm excited about it. I'm not overwhelmed with it. Where sometimes I can think of all the things that I want to do, and I could get myself overwhelmed with it and feel stressed out about it. But it's exciting. To me, it's very exciting. It's so much more, you know, of what I want to do and a life that I want to live. And you know, the one regret I have is I kicked myself in the butt that I waited as long as I did to figure out what the hell I was going to do. So here I am, 50 years old. I think what was that one saying? It goes, says, we get old too quick and wise too late. So yeah, with wisdom with age comes wisdom. And unfortunately, that's really true. Because I mean, now I've only got about 70 years left to get done what I want to do. So yeah, I'm gonna live to be 120. I'm gonna stick around, just continue to piss people off for as long as I possibly can. I've already decided that. But no, you know, like I said, folks, being the professional consumer society that we are today, I really understood when I started doing this, and the more I learned, the more I wanted to do, and the more I wanted to be able to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and not depend on society and everything else. So, you know, my motivations, again, I'm loving my life. I'm loving what we're doing. And I would invite any of you, you know, if you've got the opportunity to do something like this, just get started in it. Just start doing little things like that. And I think you'll find that, you know, I don't get bored. There's absolutely no way I'm getting bored. And I can't stop, because if I stop, I'm afraid rigor mortis might set in if I sit still too long. So the only time rigor mortis doesn't catch up to me is when there's rainy days, and that's my excuse for staying inside. But if I stop, well, rigor mortis might catch up with me. So I got to keep going, and I'm so excited to sit here doing this. And I mean, there's not one ounce of, oh God, I got so much more to do. I've got so much, you know, there's so much more firewood to go get. There's a whole nother trailer load of firewood out here I got to go get, and there's no dread. There's no, I don't want to do that in me at all. I want to do that, and I want to do this, and I want to have that ability. And, you know, so if you've ever toyed around with the idea, or ever thought, man, that would be nice, or you know, that kind of lifestyle would be nice, man, pursue it. That's all I got to tell you is you want to get after it. And I mean, this may not be the best time economically and financially to do it. But you know, if you live in a town and you hear car horns and sirens all the time, you're missing out on so much. You are missing out on so much. And I know there's people who couldn't live out here like this. There are people who have to have that, you know, closeness of people in buildings and stuff like that. They can't be out in the wide open. But you know, like I said, and I've said before in these other videos, is in these hills and hollers here, you're not in the wide open. You're tucked in. You know, old mountain mama's got you tucked in and keeping you safe. And so that's, man, it's exciting. It really is. And to think that people would get excited over, you know, the manual labor and the toiling and everything that we have to do, man, it's a great life. So I've got work to do. I got to fill this thing up. I finally ran through my first tank of fuel, so I got to fill back up and finish this up. And when the wife gets home, I'll make her start stacking. So y'all take care. Please give us a like, give us a share, leave us a comment, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell icon, and get notified when new videos come up. If you like to listen to me gab and you know, gloat about the lifestyle that I live because I love it so much, and you might think I'm a fool, but that's all right. Hey, if you're making fun of me, you're leaving somebody else alone. Take care, folks. God bless y'all.